I never liked the cold. But when you're born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska, you don't really have a choice. You just get used to it. The snow, the wind, the silence. You especially get used to being alone. That's what winter in Alaska teaches you. And in early January 2025, I was learning that lesson all over again, the hard way. I had just started a seasonal job as a wildlife surveyor, basically walking through remote areas, logging animal sightings and tracks. It was boring work, but it paid well. And honestly, I needed the space. My girlfriend and I had just split, and I wasn't handling it great. So spending a week alone in a cabin with nothing but a notebook and some freeze-dried meals felt like a weird kind of therapy. The survey area was about 40 miles northeast of Anchorage, near the edge of Chugach State Park. Not a tourist spot, no cell service. The cabin I stayed in wasn't fancy, just a government-owned ranger shack with a stove, 2 beds, and a generator that groaned louder than it powered anything. It sat at the edge of a frozen lake, surrounded by trees on all sides, like it was hiding from something. I arrived on Monday afternoon, snow already falling. The ranger who dropped me off, a guy named Bill, helped me bring my gear in and reminded me he'd be back on Sunday at noon sharp. Then he drove off, tires crunching over fresh snow, his taillights disappearing into the trees. That was the last car I saw all week. The first 2 days were uneventful. Hiked in the mornings, logged some moose tracks, ate in silence. The nights were rougher, long, dark, and filled with the kind of silence that isn't really silent. You think you hear things. Cracking branches, breathing, the sound of footsteps in fresh snow. But you tell yourself it's the wind. It's always the wind. Right? On Wednesday night, I was reading by lantern light when I heard something outside. It wasn't the usual wildlife rustling or snow falling off the roof. It was footsteps, heavy ones, deliberate, crunching through thick snow, getting closer to the cabin. I sat completely still, holding my breath. The cabin door was locked. I double-checked it every night out of habit. Still, I stood up quietly and reached for the bear spray hanging by the wall, just in case. I crept to the window and gently moved the curtain aside. For a few seconds, I saw nothing, just dark trees and the orange glow of my lantern reflecting in the glass. Then I saw him, a man, tall, maybe 6 feet 5 inches, wearing what looked like a parka and snow pants. But something about him felt wrong. His posture was too stiff, like he was trying to imitate a person. His arms hung too straight by his sides, and he was just standing there, not moving, not walking, just staring directly at the window. I ducked down instantly, heart pounding in my throat. I waited 10 seconds, 20. I looked again, gone. The snow outside was fresh enough that any movement left a clear trail. So I opened the door slowly, bear spray ready, and stepped onto the porch. Nothing. Just my own boot prints and a faint, slowly disappearing trail leading back into the trees. I followed the trail for about 10 feet before my instincts screamed at me to stop. That primal fear you can't explain. The tracks didn't make sense. They led to the side of the cabin, then stopped. No return path, no turning around, just vanished. Like the man had been lifted straight up into the trees. I didn't sleep that night. I sat up with the lantern lit and the bear spray in my lap until the sun came up. The next day, Thursday, I didn't hike. I stayed close to the cabin, kept my eyes on the tree line. I told myself I imagined it, that maybe it was an optical illusion in the snow, or just another ranger passing through, checking on me. But that night, things escalated. It started with tapping. Light, rhythmic tapping on the window by my bed. Not wind, not branches. Tapping, like knuckles. I froze, afraid to look. Eventually, I forced myself to peek. No one was there. I stood up, heart hammering, and turned off the lantern so I could see outside better. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. There were handprints on the glass. Not one, not two, dozens. All around the window. As if someone had been pressing their face and fingers against it, watching me. I backed away, locked the window latch, and pulled the curtain shut. I turned the lantern back on and sat in the middle of the cabin, knees shaking. Then came the sound. A low moaning, like a whale song mixed with a scream, coming from the trees outside. It didn't sound human. It didn't sound like anything I'd ever heard in nature. I couldn't even tell where it was coming from. It echoed around the forest, like it was circling me. I covered my ears, dropped to the floor, and prayed it would stop. It lasted over 10 minutes. When it finally did, the silence felt even worse. Friday morning, I was done. I packed my bag, radioed the ranger station, no response, and decided to hike out early. I figured I could get to the highway and hitchhike back if needed. But when I opened the door, I stopped cold. There were hundreds of tracks in the snow. Not boot prints, bare feet, dozens of different sizes, all around the cabin, circling it like vultures. The snow was torn up, like some kind of frenzied ritual had happened right outside my door while I slept. Except I hadn't slept, and I hadn't heard anything. How? I shut the door, locked it, and backed away. I wasn't stepping outside. That night, it wasn't tapping I heard. It was whispering. Right outside the walls, voices, children, women, men, all whispering in unison. They kept saying one word, stay, over and over. Stay, stay, stay. Then the lantern went out. I didn't blow it out. The flame just vanished, and the generator failed. Everything went black. In the pitch dark, I felt a cold breath on the back of my neck. Not wind, breath. I turned, blindly swung the bear spray, hit nothing. The cold lingered, like frost on my skin. I didn't sleep. Again. When Saturday morning came, it was completely silent. No tracks, no voices, no tapping. The generator started again, like nothing had happened. I stayed locked in the cabin all day, counting the hours until Ranger Bill returned. At 11:57 a.m. on Sunday, I was standing by the door with my pack on when I heard the car engine outside. I rushed out and nearly tackled him with relief. He looked at me, concerned. "You look like hell," he said. "I didn't sleep," I told him. "We need to leave." We drove the whole 40 miles in silence. When we got back to town, he asked what happened. I said nothing. I still don't know what to call what I experienced. Hallucinations, sleep deprivation, something worse. All I know is this: I never went back. And when I checked the ranger logs online months later, I saw that cabin was burned down. No explanation. Just one word written in the reason for decommission field. I've worked maintenance at high-rises in Chicago for about a decade. The buildings are all basically the same. Elevators that stick, tenants who lose their keys, clogs in places no clogs should be. But in early April 2025, Something happened at the East Linmore Tower, a 26-story apartment complex in downtown, that I still don't have an answer for. And I'm not the kind of guy who usually believes in weird stuff. Not ghosts, not demons. I'm the faulty wiring type. If a tenant says their lights are flickering, I check the circuit. Pipes banging in the walls, air pockets, or temperature fluctuation. There's always a reason, until there isn't. It started with a call from Unit 1903. A woman named Melinda, mid-30s, worked remotely, lived alone with a Siamese cat. Nice enough. She called around 10:45 p.m., which was already strange. Our line technically closes at 9, but she had the emergency number, and I was the one on call. Her voice was shaking when I picked up. "Hi, I know this is probably stupid, but I think someone's inside the wall, behind the closet." That threw me off. "Inside the wall? Like an animal?" "No," she said. "Like a man." I grabbed my flashlight, toolkit, and headed up. By the time I reached 19, the hallway was dead quiet. Linmore's halls are always quiet. Thick carpeting, low lighting. The kind of eerie calm you don't notice until you're walking alone past midnight with a wrench in your hand. I knocked. She opened the door halfway, just enough to peek her head out. "Did you hear it?" she asked. I stepped in. Her place looked normal. Clean, minimal furniture, nothing out of the ordinary. She pointed toward her bedroom. It was coming from in there, scraping, then breathing. I stepped in, checked the walls with my flashlight. Nothing unusual. I tapped along the closet wall, solid plaster over drywall. No give. "This is an exterior wall," I said. "There's nothing behind it but concrete." "But I heard something," she insisted. I knocked, and it knocked back." I paused. Then I knocked on the wall, just for the hell of it. 4 quick taps. Nothing. I turned to her. She looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry," she said. Maybe I imagined it. I haven't been sleeping well, working late." "It's all right," I said. "But I'll log it just in case. If anything changes, call us again." She nodded, thanked me, and I left. 2 nights later, she called again. But this time, she didn't say anything. Just breathing. Slow, deep. I kept saying, "Hello, Melinda?" But no answer. Just that heavy, ragged breathing, like someone was sitting too close to the phone. Then, a whisper. Barely audible but real. 1904. Then the call cut. There is no 1904. That's the weird part. Linmore Tower was designed with 1 apartment per corner. 1901, 1902, 1903, and then 1905. That 4th unit was never finished. It was walled off during construction in the 80s, something about faulty plumbing that made the space unlivable. Instead of tearing down and starting over, they just pretended it didn't exist. No door, no access. On paper, it's not there. But it is. I know because I've stood next to it. I went back up. This time, Melinda didn't answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I even rang her buzzer downstairs, no reply. So I used the master key. The apartment was unlocked. Inside was chaos. The cat was gone. Her furniture overturned. A steaming mug of coffee sat on the table. But what chilled me wasn't the mess. It was the closet. It was open. Not just ajar, wide open, like someone had pulled it from the inside. And beyond it was no longer a wall. It was a door. A metal, industrial-style door, old, rusted, bolted into the frame like it had always been there. With 1 number carved deep into the center. 1904. I stepped closer. My flashlight flickered. The bulb hissed. I tried to radio the front desk. Static. Then I heard the breathing. Same as before. Low, wet. But this time it was behind me. I turned, nothing. I spun back toward the closet. The door was gone. The whole wall was just flat again, like it had never changed. I backed out of the unit slowly, locked the door behind me, and told myself to get some damn sleep. But the next day, we got another call from the tenant in 2003, right above Melinda. She reported loud noises in the middle of the night, dragging sounds, screaming, and a deep voice speaking in what she described as backwards English. I was done playing normal. I pulled the original blueprints from the basement filing cabinets, and there it was. Unit 1904, 720 square feet, listed as sealed. No electrical, no plumbing, no access. Just concrete walls and silence. I couldn't stop thinking about that rusted door. I needed to know. So the next night, around 2 a.m., I snuck back in, tools in hand, crowbar, hammer, flashlight. I opened Melinda's unit. It was completely empty, all her stuff gone. Furniture, decorations, even the curtains. As if she'd never lived there. No move-out notice, no forwarding address. I checked the tenant database. She was gone, erased. But the closet was open again. And this time, there was no rusted door. There was just a hallway, dimly lit, concrete floor, bare pipes running along the ceiling, and it smelled like wet drywall and rot. I should have turned back, but something pulled me forward. The hallway sloped downward, like a service tunnel. My boots echoed as I walked. The air got colder, my flashlight dimmer. I walked maybe 30 feet before I saw it. A door, not labeled, just plain wood, cracked at the edges, and behind it, voices, hundreds of them, whispers, laughter, crying, chanting. They said my name. Michael, Michael, stay. I opened the door. I saw every missing tenant the building's ever had. Melinda, the old man from 702, the family from 1605, all standing in rows, silent, staring, and behind them, a figure, too tall, too thin, wrapped in bandages like a mummy, but with no face, just teeth, so many teeth, rows and rows of them, stretching ear to ear. It whispered, "You see us now." I slammed the door and ran. I don't even remember climbing the stairs. I just remember bursting out of the emergency exit into the alley and collapsing in the snow. It's been 3 months. Melinda was never found. Her numbers disconnected. Her workplace claims she never worked there. Her lease is gone from our system, like the building took her back. And the weirdest part? When I walk past the 1900 floor now, the air feels thicker, like something's watching. And once, I swear, I heard a knock from the sealed concrete wall that should have been 1904. 4 quick taps, like it was waiting for me to knock back. I was looking for a cheap DSLR to film short films. That was the dream, to be a filmmaker, or at least a YouTuber with some cinematic edge. Money was tight. I had just lost my job at a marketing agency in LA and was surviving off freelance gigs. Craigslist was my go-to for gear. Sketchy? Sometimes. But I'd bought mics, lighting kits, and even a tripod off there before. No issues. Until this. It started on March 18th, 2025. I saw a listing that seemed too good. Canon EOS R5, barely used, $200. That's a $3,000 camera. It had no description, just one photo. The camera sitting on a table, slightly blurry, almost like the person taking it didn't know how. Irony, right? I emailed the seller. They replied an hour later. "You want it, you get it today. Cash only, no flakes." They gave me an address in East Hollywood, a rundown neighborhood I knew from a few past film shoots. I should have backed out when they asked me to come after dark, but I didn't. I got there around 9:15 p.m. The building was this gross 3-story walk-up with yellowed stucco walls and one dim porch light flickering like a dying firefly. Apartment 2B. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Finally, the door cracked open and a man in his 40s peeked out. Gaunt face, greasy black hair, sweat-soaked tank top even though it was chilly. "Camera?" he asked, like I was late. "Yeah." He opened the door wide. The apartment was dark, lit only by a single lamp in the corner. It smelled like cigarettes and something rotting. I tried not to breathe too deeply. He didn't say a word, just walked over to a small side table, picked up the camera, and handed it to me. No box, no accessories. 200. I handed him the cash, thanked him, and turned to leave. That's when he said, "If you start seeing things, don't come back." I stopped. "What?" He just stared at me, smiled, then slammed the door shut. Back home, I examined the camera. It looked perfect. No scratches, no cracks. Battery was low, but I had a charger from an old Canon. Then I checked the SD card. It was still inside. Naturally, I was curious. I plugged it into my laptop. There were 11 video files, all unlabeled. No dates, no thumbnails, just vid001 through vid011. I clicked the first one. Footage 001 was someone filming a hallway. Dim lighting, maybe in an apartment or hotel. The camera shakes and the person breathing heavily. Then, a door opens on its own. No sound, no creak, just opens. Cut. Footage 002, the same hallway, different angle. Now there's something at the far end. A shape, human-sized, standing perfectly still. The filmer zooms in. It looks like a man in a deer skull mask. Cut. Footage 003, the filmer's running. You hear their gasps, the slamming of footsteps. They look back. The figure is closer. Still standing, still unmoving. Cut. I watched all 11. By the end, the camera falls to the floor and you just hear screaming off-screen. Not loud, not panicked, just resigned, like someone realizing they won't escape. The final frame, the deer skull man picking up the camera and turning it directly on his face. Then the screen cuts to black. I sat there, frozen. I should have formatted the card, deleted it, burned it, but I didn't. Instead, I started testing the camera around my apartment. Just simple things. Filming my bookshelf, setting up low-light shots, getting used to the controls. Then things got weird. First night, I recorded myself sleeping, just to test the night mode and audio. Around 2:39 a.m., the blanket visibly pulls back slightly. I don't move. I stay completely still, snoring, but something not visible, pulled the blanket off me just a bit. Then, nothing. No more motion. But the temperature in the room dropped. I remember waking up cold. I wrote it off as airflow. Until night 2, I wasn't even recording. I had put the camera away in my closet. But around 3 a.m., I woke up to the faint sound of whispering, like someone talking right outside my bedroom door. I grabbed my phone and started recording audio. You can hear it. A male voice. Low, like it's reciting something. I boosted the audio in Audacity the next day. It was saying my name over and over until it wasn't my name anymore. It was saying Canon, Canon, Canon like the brand, like the camera itself. The third night, I woke up to find the camera on my desk, powered on, recording. I had locked it in the closet, literally, and I live alone. The footage was already 4 hours long. Most of it is just black, like it was in a bag. But in the last 30 seconds, there's a face, right in front of the lens. Not mine, not human. The deer skull was back, but this time, it moved. You could see its head tilt, the jaw creak open. Then the screen turned to static. I smashed the SD card with a hammer, burned it in my sink. I tried to sell the camera on Craigslist. No one replied. Then one night, I woke up and it was filming again. Red light blinking. I threw it out the window. It was back on my kitchen counter the next morning. It won't leave. Every night, it moves. Sometimes it's in the bathroom. Sometimes it's watching the bed. I set up my phone to record it. Every night, around 3:11 a.m., it disappears from frame, then reappears closer, closer, until the phone dies. I've been awake for 72 hours now. I won't sleep. If I sleep, it records me, and I'm scared of what it'll capture next. Update. April 30th, 2025, LAPD missing person report. Filed a 28-year-old filmmaker named Dylan Ramirez was reported missing from his East LA apartment. His door was locked from the inside. No signs of struggle, no personal items missing. The only thing left behind? A Canon EOS R5, still recording. The footage? A man in a deer skull mask walking slowly toward the lens. Then static.